same thing of where we are coming from, a culture where children were there to be seen and not to be heard. This culture is teaching the kids to be very expressive. And, so that's why they talk back to us or they express themselves, whatever they have, in their mind. But we still have that misconception of, if they talk back to us, then that means they're disrespectful, they are lazy, they have an attitude, they don't have manners. So just being able to understand this culture provides that opportunity to express themselves. It's not an issue of being disrespectful. So it's for us parents to understand the difference of their upbringing, from abroad and in this country, that it's really different. I remember making a threat that, I'll send you back to Kenya to a boarding school, because I grew up in a boarding school myself, and I know there are tough, rules in boarding schools in Kenya. And I thought that's the best place for her to go. And I remember paying a ticket for a holiday, and she was so scared that she'd be left in Kenya and I would come back alone. So those are things that, we have to learn. Using threats is not really an approach that's going to work, but, approaching it from the American way and not being so rigid or being tough disciplinarians, as we were brought up. As Rose said, we're bringing up Gen Zs, we have to be a little softer with them, understand their culture in this country. So to answer to the other question, what advice would I give? I think I've kind of touched a little bit on that, but just having an understanding that parenting has, I just said, parenting has no instruction manual. So with that, I say, we ask the grace of God to be good parents. We're given a child, in this world, and, we are given like a present. Just the way you buy a TV, we get an instruction manual on how to operate. When you get a child, we don't have a manual on how to operate. So we try our best to be good parents to you. So we do make mistakes, and we learn on the go, but we can never use a one-size-fits-all approach to our children. Those with more than one child, you can tell what, every child has their own personalities, and we cannot use the same approach to each child. So just understanding their different personalities and addressing them differently based on their needs would be a best approach. Then we come with different values. So each household has its values. So it's how do we carry those values and bring them to our children so that they can carry them through different generations. So the first generation, when we get here, we find that we tend to embrace the Western economic culture. We work doubles hours and all that, but we try not to adapt to the values and the beliefs that they bring in. But by the time, we have the second generation, you find that they assimilate very well. And that's why you're finding kids have been able to talk, and express themselves, unlike the ones that have been brought back home. So as a parent, that's, bringing a child in here, the one thing that I know has worked for me personally is setting expectations ahead of time, if it's boundaries or it's rules. But of course, I approach those rules with, with a relationship. I have to build a relationship. I have to build trust with my child, because once they gain trust, then they can be open to communicate with me, whatever struggles they're having, whatever challenges they're being exposed to in school and in the community. As long as we have that open communication, I find that has worked better. And then also being consistent with a kind of discipline. If I'm applying any discipline here, I know understanding, explaining the consequences that come with those, the kind of actions that require discipline, and be consistent across the board, that has worked well. As a parent, at times you feel, you kind of break the rules, or they know how to manipulate, that's, kids have psychology from the day they're born. And they kind of know how to manipulate their parents. You find they know that it's either the dad or the mom who is easier to approach. But, once you have a standard communication and we are consistent in how we approach such issues, we find that to be working well. And then also trying, just especially for kids or generations of parents that have been born here and they have kids in here, maybe they don't have a chance to go back to Kenya, just trying to educate on the culture so that we don't lose our culture. Is it just speaking Swahili? I know we have a lot of intermarriages here, but just not losing that culture from back home. That way they're able to embrace it along as they, they get challenges. They're bullied for speaking a second language, at least helping them to be proud of what their culture is. If it's taking that githeri to school and kids are making fun of you, love that githeri, because that is your food that you've grown up with. Teach them that this is food that, that is nutritious and don't feel embarrassed that somebody has made fun of you there in school. And then to parents too, something that I find that we lack, we come here, we find ourselves working so hard, is self-care. Mental health for ourselves is very important because usually you cannot fill somebody else from an empty cup. Once you fill your cup, it's easy to take care of your children, address to them, deal with their mental health issues as well. So we take care of ourselves like in the plane, they say, put your mask on before you can put somebody else's mask. So when we take care of ourselves, it's maybe having that one day you go and just get a massage, go get your hair done, just go and spend time with your friends and, not being so overwhelmed by the parenting, because that's the other thing. Once you're overwhelmed, you're not able to deal with your children, with the right mental state. So I think